Well, look at what we have here. Another video on the Thirsty Turtle channel. But for real though, welcome y'all to another video. And today is a special video, because here we got a story. And this story doesn't involve, but just wanted to show off little Sophie. Alright, Sophie, you can get out of here now. This is the story. This is part 2 of the story of when I caught the fish. Oh, the fish. It was magnificent. It was about that big, which is about 3.5 feet for you viewers. But we'll save the details for when we get into the story. It was a long time ago. About early summer. June, I'd say. Sometime around June. You know, me and Tanner have always been anglers of a sort. But not me as much. Previous to this big fish, I've only caught about 3. And one was that night. It was a massive bass. It was probably a 16-inch bass. Realistically, yeah, it was probably 16-inch. And boy, did it taste good. But anyways, it was early summer, about June. And me and Tanner were just sitting around the house. We were thinking, let's go night fishing. We don't usually do that very often. Last time we went night fishing, it didn't really work out. What I imagine is we were probably just sitting in the backyard fishing in the lake, and there ain't much to catch in that back lake. So we decided, hey, let's take a few catfish poles up to the dam, set them up, and we'll go from there. So we take our poles, grab the golf cart, grab a cooler, because we know we're going to catch some big fish, or at least we want to. So, take the golf cart, take the cooler, drive right up to the dam, unload our stuff, and here's our setup. So, I believe I had a pole with, what would it be, a spoon, I believe they're called? It was a silver spoon, I remember. That silver spoon won me my big prize. And then Tanner had on a jig on his pole. And then we had another pole, which was a big old catfish pole. And we sat that up on someone else's boat, which, don't tell anyone, but we ain't supposed to be doing that. But we did it anyways, and it's alright, it's alright. So, what you doing, Sophie? Just living? Alright. Anyways, so we set up our poles. We're all just doing our thing, vibing, and having a good laugh, you know how it goes. And I'm just sitting there, casting my pole back and forth, ain't really catching much. But so I was walking down the docks, right? Tanner was all the way on this side, and I'm going all the way down that side towards where the golf cart was. And I'm just casting like, just like that. And I see this big bass. Like, he was a monster. Like, one of the biggest bass I've ever seen. Just swimming. He was just blubbing. Swimming along right up on the rocks. Right? Like, there was probably at least maybe 6 inches of water. And this dude was just blub, 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 blubbing away. And man, I'll tell you what. Here's what I did. Took my little pole, and I just kind of played him a little bit. And he was like, oh, hey, look at that. That's a nice silver spoon. I'm going to just, no! And then I had to yank him out of the water immediately, or otherwise he would have gotten out, or gotten away. And there he goes. I pull him up, and I'm like, Tanner! Tanner is like oh, he's got to be at least 50 feet away down towards the end. And I'm screaming, Tanner, and I'm running barefoot. And I'm like, Tanner, I got a bass. I got a bass. And he's like, oh, matey, good job, good job. And, you know, we look at him. We're like, oh, he's a big one. He's a big one. And we throw him in the cooler. And we're like, all right, let's keep trudging on. And same thing happens. The exact same thing happens. I catch another one the exact same way. I'm just dangling in front of him. And he's like, bass is like, oh, ho. And I yank him out of the water. And I'm running. I'm like, Tanner, I caught another. And he's like, you're on a roll, matey. And I'm like, I feel good. I feel real good. Sorry. One moment. Just take a minute. Capture the beauty. Anyways, ignore my messy room. But, so, after my amazing 2 catches, Tanner has yet to catch anything, but he's doing more so, like, he's actually casting out. I was just walking up and down the docks, and I just happened to get lucky. That was straight up luck. So, I was thinking, all right, well, I caught my 2 big basses, and I keep walking down. I'm not seeing any more, so that might have been my luck run out, you know. So I go back over to where Tanner is, and Tanner's walking down the dock and walking back, and, you know, casting out. And I'm like, if I were a fish, where would I want to be? I know, in this big-ass cove with some low-hanging trees, and it's like 45 feet down around there, and I'm thinking, okay, let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do with this area. So, I take my pole. No. Oh, I heft that bitch out there. And it was just laying. It was just sitting. And I was slowly reeling in. And I feel like a thump. Like that. Just like a thump. Like that. And I'm like, whoa. What is that? I think I'm snagged. I'm pulling in. And I'm like, like that. Oh, Tanner, I think I snagged on a log. And he's like, log? What you talking about, Willis? And I'm just trying to unearth it. Like, I think I'm really snagged, and I feel it, and then it starts to move. It's like that, but it was real slow. So it was actually like, whoa. It was like a giant log just took form and moved. And I was like, oh my God, that ain't no log. That's a fish. And then I'm heaving. And I'm like, oh boy, it's a big one. And it was let me tell you, it was like unearthing a log off of the bottom of the sea. It was so hard to get that thing up because it had so much force. It was swimming away, and I was just pulling it up. And then I see its shadow. And I'm like, Tanner, what is that? And he's like, Gavin, that's a walleye. Oh my God. And I'm like, get the net. Go grab the net. And he's running. He's like, whoa, gotta grab the net. He grabs the net, and he's sitting there. He's perched. And I'm like, I'm heaving it up. And I'm reeling and heaving. And boom. There it is. I look at him. He looks at me. I look at him. He looks at me. He knows what's about to happen. Then he gets snatched up by the net. Oh, and boy, when I tell you, nirvana, pure ecstasy is what I felt. At that very moment, the most bliss I've ever felt in my entire life. All the joy that's ever been in my life will never amount to me catching that 3-foot walleye. It was 24 inches, but we're just going to say it's 3 foot. So Tanner grabs it up and scoops it, and he throws it onto the footpath. And we're looking at it. We're like, oh my God, look at that thing. And it's like, whoa. He's like, I'm trying to get back to the ocean. Or not the ocean, the lake. You know what I mean. But we're just looking at him. We're holding him steady. And we're like, oh my God, that's a walleye. That is the only walleye I've ever seen in my entire life. Here's what makes a walleye so special. Not very many people in the lake that we live at, not very many people catch the walleye. Only one person in my family has ever caught a walleye, and it was my grandfather. And it was about a foot maybe, or a little less than a foot, and it got away. It jumped off into the water. So I am now the only person to ever catch a 2-foot walleye in our entire family. Crazy, let me tell you. That's a crazy feeling. So we're looking at him. We're like, oh my God, this thing is massive. We're touching it. We're like stroking it like, geez. And we open up the mouth, and Tanner kind of gets nipped on the hand because walleye have teeth. And he kind of gets bit on the hand a little bit. And he's like, whoo, that boy sting. So then we pick him up, throw him in the cooler. And that was the last thing we caught that night. That was it. The luck had run out. I kept casting, and I was like, oh, maybe I can catch another one, because I was still riding that high from catching that walleye. So I kept throwing, and here is the most unfortunate part of my entire life. I almost caught another one. I threw out my lure, and I was just reeling, and I feel it again, the exact same feeling. It was like unearthing a log. And there we go. And I was pulling it, and I knew it was a fish. Because it was the exact same as when the walleye was pulling. And it got away. It got away, and it took my spoon with it. My lucky spoon. That was a terrible feeling. And then it started pissing down rain, and we were just looking at each other like, oh, we gotta go, man. We've done what we could. So, we start packing up. And Tanner's like, no, this comes a little later. So we drive back over to home in the golf cart, take our stuff in, and we're just like, did that just happen? It did. It did happen. And I have photo evidence. That it happened. So we're sitting there looking at the fish. We're taking pictures of it and looking at it like, oh my God, that's good eating. And it was. It tasted amazing. It tasted phenomenal. But anyways, Tanner and me are bickering at each other because we're like, Gavin, we don't have no ice. We don't have ice. So Tanner's like, okay, I'm gonna run down to security and see if they have any ice for us. So he runs down to the security shack, and he convinces them with his charisma, being like, yo, we got a walleye, we need some ice. And security guy's like, ice. Gives us the ice, pour it into the bucket, and we're pretty set from there. But we realized the ice started melting pretty quickly, and we're like, that ice isn't going to last us very long, man. We got to do something about this. So me and Tanner are like, you know what you got to do, right? And he's like, dude, I got to go into town. And I'm like, are you really going to go into town? And he's like, I have to. I mean, we have to save this fish. There's no way we're going to let this spoil. We can't just let it die. We have to freeze it. And he's like, okay. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Go into town. And he's like, okay, I'm taking Lex, which is the big old dog we got. He jumps in the car and creeps out real slow. And he's gone, because for us it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to get into town, and then 15 to 20 minutes back. So, that's like 45 minutes that he's going to be gone. But he ended up being gone for like an hour, because, he got held up at the gas station and stuff like that. So I'm just sitting there for an hour like, is he okay? Like, I'm really getting concerned, because it usually doesn't take this long. But, it's just the way it goes. He had to do his thing. And, eventually, hour goes by, and I hear his car roll up the hill. And I'm like, oh, thank God he's alive. He comes in, he's like, I got the ice. And we're like, yes, we got the ice. And then we pour the ice into the cooler. And that's just about where the story ends. We freeze the fish, keep him overnight. We show his parents, and his parents are like, damn, that's a big ass fish. And we're like, yeah, it is. It is a big fish. Actually, what else happened is we ended up freezing the fish, right? And we called my dad, because this man knows how to skin fish perfectly. And we're like, hey, we have a walleye and 2 big ass bass. Can you pick us up and bring us home so we can eat it? So, picks us up, and drives 45 to an hour back home where I live. And he skins that fish, and man, that was like that big of pieces from that walleye, like that big of fillets. It was like they were massive. And man, that is some of the best fish I've ever eaten my entire life. It was amazing. But that's it, folks. That is the story of when I caught the biggest fish in our entire family. Apart from any catfish and any saltwater fish. But I have the biggest freshwater fish in our entire family. And I got a lot of pride about that, because it's a good feeling. Especially for it being like the 5th fish I've ever caught. So, thank you all for tuning into this video. And I'm going to leave you off with a little Sophie. Sophie! How are you, love? Oh, she ain't feeling it right now. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And I just need to write a message. If you're seeing this and you're a real person, please comment on our videos. Comment whatever you want. If you are a real person, please comment. Because we have more views than we thought we had. And we think it's from us like watching over the videos. So if you could, please leave a comment down below. And subscribe, baby. Alright. I'll see y'all folks later. Bye-bye.